Everyone believes the dollar has always ruled the world, that it became powerful because America was strong, fair, and trusted. But what if that story is missing something important? What if the dollar didn't rise naturally at all, but through a quiet deal made after a global disaster? A deal most people never learned about. And what if the day the dollar began to lose its global power didn't happen with a crash? But with a warning, almost no one noticed. To understand that warning, we have to go back to the ashes of World War II. Europe was broken, but the United States stood untouched, holding nearly 3/4 of the world's gold. In 1944, leaders from 44 countries met in a quiet town called Bretton Woods. What they were not told was that a new financial empire was being built. The Bretton Woods system made the US dollar the center of the global economy. Every major currency would be tied to the dollar. The dollar would be tied to gold. $1 equaled a fixed amount of gold, because America had the gold to back it up. What most people didn't realize was that this system gave the United States something no empire had ever had before: the ability to print the world's reserve currency. At first, the system worked. Global trade exploded. America rebuilt Europe through loans and aid. Dollars flowed everywhere. The dollar became more than money, it became power. Countries needed dollars to trade oil, food, and machines. Banks stored dollars as reserves. The world was slowly locking itself into a single system, with America at the center. But even in the early years, cracks began to form. The US was printing more dollars than it had gold, on global influence. Other countries started to notice something strange. There were more dollars overseas than gold in US vaults. The promise still stood, but the math no longer worked. This raised a dangerous question. What would happen if countries asked for their gold back? That question became real in the 1960s. France, led by Charles de Gaulle, openly challenged the system. He called it unfair. He said America enjoyed a privilege by paying the world with paper while others had to earn real value. France began converting its dollars into gold. This was not a collapse yet, but it was the first warning signal. Then came 1971, quietly. The world woke up to a new reality. The dollar was no longer backed by gold at all. It was backed by trust alone. The public was told this was temporary, a technical fix. Few understood the meaning. This was the true breaking point. The dollar had become pure fiat money, and the global system had no anchor anymore. Surprisingly, the dollar did not collapse. In fact, it grew stronger. This confused everyone. But behind the scenes, a new deal was forming. Oil would now be priced in dollars. Countries needed dollars not because of gold, but because energy depended on it. This petrodollar system saved the dollar and extended its power. Once again, the system survived. Once again, the warning was ignored. The United States learned it could print without immediate punishment. Financial markets grew larger than the real economy. Your money moved faster than goods. Banks created wealth from leverage instead of production. Each crisis was met with more money printing, more debt, more promises that this time would be different. By the early 2000s, the system was stretched thin. Then came 2008, a financial crash that nearly destroyed the global economy. The response was shocking. Trillions of new dollars were created overnight. Central banks around the world copied the same strategy. The lesson was clear. The system would be saved at any cost. But another message was hidden beneath the rescue. If money could be created without limit, what was it really worth? After 2008, trust quietly began to change. Countries started asking new questions. Why were their reserves held in a currency controlled by another nation? Why did sanctions suddenly become a weapon? Why did global trade depend on a system they could not control? These questions did not make headlines, but they spread slowly, like cracks under a building. Then came events that accelerated everything. Countries realized that holding dollars also meant political risk. The dollar was no longer neutral. It was powerful but fragile in a new way. Alternatives began forming. Payment systems outside the dollar. Gold buying at record levels. Each move seemed minor, but together they formed a pattern. Here is the part most people missed. The dollar did not lose power in a single moment. It began losing trust in silence. The warning was not a crash. It was behavior. When nations slowly prepare for something, they don't announce it. They act quietly. And history shows that when trust fades, collapse does not come suddenly. It comes after everyone believes the danger has passed. By the time the public notices, the decision has already been made. And this brings us to the question that matters most. If this has happened before to every global currency empire, why would this one be different? What happened next shocked even the people who built the system. By the time most people thought the dollar was stronger than ever, the real breaking point had already passed. History shows this pattern clearly. Empires do not fall when they look weak. They fall when they look unstoppable. And the dollar followed the same path. After 2008, the world entered a new era. Interest rates dropped near zero. Money printing became normal. Central banks promised stability, but they also removed fear from the system. Risk no longer seemed dangerous. Governments borrowed more, corporations borrowed more, even households borrowed more. The global economy became addicted to cheap dollars, like oxygen in a sealed room. No one asked what would happen if the flow slowed. Then came the moment many now see as the day the dollar lost global power, not in headlines, but in trust. In 2020, the world shut down. The response was immediate and massive. Trillions of dollars were created in months, more money than in decades before. At first it felt necessary, emergency action. But history teaches us something brutal. Every currency collapse begins with a reason that sounds reasonable. Inflation followed. It's not right away. Slowly, quietly, then all at once. Prices rose everywhere. Food, energy, rent. The public was told it was temporary. Supply chains. The same words used in past collapses. But something deeper was happening. The value of money was changing faster than trust could keep up. At the same time, a dangerous line was crossed. Foreign reserves were frozen. Access to dollars was blocked for political reasons. This shocked governments around the world. For decades, dollars were seen as safe, neutral, untouchable. Suddenly, they were a weapon. In that moment, many countries understood a hard truth. If money can be controlled, it can be taken. What happened next didn't make daily news, but it changed the future. Central banks began buying gold at record levels. Trade deals were signed without dollars. New payment systems were tested. Local currencies replaced the dollar in regional trade. These were not loud rebellions. They were quiet exits. Quiet exits are the most dangerous kind. The fallout was not immediate collapse. It was fragmentation. The dollar remained powerful, but less dominant. Like past reserve currencies, it entered the final stage. Still used everywhere, but no longer trusted by everyone. History shows this stage can last years, sometimes decades. It feels stable, till it doesn't. Leaders tried to fix the problem the only way the system knew how. Higher interest rates, tighter policy, then panic. Then reversal. Each fix created new damage. Higher rates stressed debt. Lower rates weakened currency. There was no painless solution left. Every choice made something worse. This is what happens when a system reaches its limits. The failed fixes reveal the truth. You cannot print trust, cannot force confidence, and you cannot threaten the world into believing forever. Every past reserve currency from the Dutch guilder to the British pound followed this same path. First dominance, then debt, then denial, then decline. Now look at today. Debt levels higher than ever. Political division. Global alliances shifting. Technology changing money itself. Digital currencies. Instant settlements. Systems that don't need a single center. The conditions are not similar to the past. They are more extreme. This does not mean the dollar disappears tomorrow. History doesn't work that way. It means the world is preparing for something different. And preparation always comes before collapse. The warning nobody saw coming was not a crash. It was coordination. When many players quietly change behavior at the same time, history is already moving. So what are the lessons? First, reserve currencies don't fall because they are attacked. They fall because they are overused. Power becomes weakness when it is stretched too far. Second, trust is more important than strength. Once trust begins to fade, no amount of control can bring it back. Third, transitions are slow until they are sudden. What feels stable for years can change in months. The open question is not if history repeats, it's who sees it early enough to adapt. If you want to understand how past systems collapsed, how hidden financial structures shape the future, and why today feels uncomfortably familiar, this channel exists for you. Watch closely. History rarely warns twice, because the most dangerous moment is when everyone believes the system will last forever.